大家好，午安，歡迎大家嚟參加我哋呢個雙語嘅新冠肺炎第13個視像嘅會議。咁今日咧係由三藩市嘅社區領袖同埋三藩市警察局嘅領袖一齊對話，大家係一個圓桌會議嘅方式進行。Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome all of you to this 13th COVID-related bilingual virtual meeting for the community. The dialogue today will be between leaders of the community and the police department having a dialogue regarding the hate crimes that are ongoing. And you'll take the format of a roundtable discussion. 喺新冠肺炎嘅疫情之中咧，全世界咧而家已經係死咗多過200幾萬人噶啦，咁差唔多到300萬噶啦。咁喺呢個亞特蘭大市咧，就係你而家睇緊呢幅圖啦，呢幅地圖喺上面咧有3個地點，就喺呢3個不同嘅地點裏邊咧，喺上個禮拜咧就係有8個人被槍殺，其中有6個咧係亞裔嘅婦女嚟嘅。咁呢啲受害者咧，加埋喺不同嘅城市咧，都有一啲被歧視啊，或者被毆打啊，或者受害嘅亞裔咧，都可能係有啲傷亡嘅。咁我哋就想喺今日開始呢個圓桌會議之前咧，就為死者同埋家人咧一齊同佢哋默哀片刻，紀念所有嘅受害者嘅。What is shown on the screen is a map of Atlanta showing where shooting took place. 8 victims were killed, 6 of them Asian women. In the world, 2.74 million people had already died from the pandemic, from COVID. And along with the victims killed in Atlanta and other people who have died or hurt from assaults by hate crimes during the pandemic, we want to, before we start today, with a heavy heart, let's observe a moment of silence, remembrance of all the victims who were killed by COVID and violent crimes. This picture shows some of the victims and may cause discomfort in some of you. Stereotyping and conspiracy theories identifying Chinese and other Asians as responsible for the COVID pandemic have been embraced widely by many Americans, leading to a nationwide increase in hate crimes targeting Asian Americans over the last year. 好多美國人呢係有對亞裔嘅一啲刻板印象同埋陰謀論嘅，認為中國咧或者係其他嘅亞裔咧係造成呢個新冠肺炎疫情嘅原因。呢種咁嘅諗法啊，係導致舊年啊喺全國針對亞裔嘅仇恨罪案咧係增加咗好多嘅。We were hoping that over time and with the change of presidency, the anti-Asian violence from hate and racism would get less and less. But that has not been the case. Well, enough is enough. We have a lot of leaders, including the president, Asian members of the Congress, state governor, assemblymen, community leaders, and activists standing up and protesting the discrimination and violence. They are demanding that these anti-Asian hate slurs, attacks, and hate crimes be stopped. Many in the Asian community are shocked and fearful to see what's taking place. Some felt that the anti-Asian hate virus is worse than the coronavirus in this pandemic. 我哋咧係好希望咧，隨住時間嘅流逝同埋換咗總統咧，呢啲仇恨同埋種族主義引起嘅反亞裔暴力係會越嚟越少嘅。但係事實卻並非如此。好啦，我哋受夠啦，即係到咗忍無可忍嘅地步。咁好多領袖咧，就包括總統啦、亞裔嘅國會代表啊、州長、州議員、社區嘅領袖同埋一啲積極嘅維權分子咧，大家都企起身嚟到抗議啲仇視同埋暴力，係要求制止呢啲反亞裔仇恨嘅言論、攻擊同埋呢啲仇恨嘅犯罪嘅。亞裔社區裏邊好多人咧，其實都好震驚嘅，見到呢啲咁嘅事情發生啦喺美國嗰度。有啲人覺得 喺呢個反亞裔嘅疫情之中啊，仇恨嘅病毒咧係比冠狀嘅病毒咧係更加危險嘅，同埋更加嚴重。The little round balls in this slide represent the major factors in the society that have caused the problems that we are seeing now. And there are many items such as prejudices, racism, stereotyping, competition, etc. that may have contributed to Asians' perpetual foreigner image and led to increases in anti-Asian violence and hate crimes. That is why resolving the hate crime and violence issue is not going to be a simple task. And we'll need the entire community to realize that these problems are here and that we need to come together to solve them together. 喺呢個疫情流行嘅期間咧，導致反亞裔嘅情緒同埋針對亞裔罪案增加嘅社會關鍵因素咧係有好多嘅。咁咧就由呢啲細嘅波仔代表咗啦，每一個波咧就係代表一個問題嘅。咁裏邊有偏見啦、種族主義啦、陳規定型嘅觀念啦，或者係大家互相競爭嘅，諸如此類嘅因素咧，都係助長咗亞裔永久嘅外國人嘅形象，同埋導致呢啲反亞裔嘅暴力同埋仇恨罪案嘅增加嘅。因此咧，解決呢啲仇恨犯罪同埋暴力嘅問題咧，並唔係一件容易嘅事嚟嘅，因為有太多嘅因素存在。所以我哋要解決咧，就要將成個社會一齊大家坐埋嚟傾偈，一齊嚟去解決啲問題嘅。This is on the front cover of a recent Time magazine, and it says, hate crime against Asian Americans are on the rise. Many say more policing isn't the answer. Well, more policing may not be the only answer, but we think that it is a very important part of the answer. So we don't quite agree with that statement on the front cover. Because policing can provide us the safety that we need now. We need to be able to feel safe when we go out. And that's the reason why we have invited leaders from the San Francisco Police Department to come and join us tonight. And we also have invited community leaders. We hope together we can have a dialogue about how we can protect ourselves and what the police is doing for us so we can be safer. 呢啲咧就係最近喺《時代》雜誌封面所寫嘅嘢。佢話針對美國嘅亞裔嘅仇恨犯罪咧，正在喺度上升。咁好多人咧就話，更多警察嘅監管咧都唔係答案嚟嘅。我哋咧就唔係幾同意呢個封面嘅説法嘅，因為加強警務啊，雖然唔係唯一嘅答案，但係我哋認為呢個係答案之中其中一個非常之重要嘅部分嚟嘅噃。因為維持治安係可以提供俾我哋而家正需要嘅安全感。我哋出外嘅時候咧，一定要覺得安全，我哋先會出街嘅。所以我哋今日咧就係特別咁樣邀請咗咧嚟自舊金山警察局嘅領袖啦，同埋咧我哋亦都請咗2個社區嘅領袖一齊嚟嘅。我哋希望大家喺埋一齊咧係可以傾下偈，談論下我哋點樣能夠可以自己保護自己，同埋警察咧又可以為我哋做啲咩嘢，等到我哋咧係可以覺得更加安全嘅。I am the moderator today, and my name is Diana Lau, Director of the UCSF Asian Health Institute. 我咧就係今日嘅會議嘅主持，個名咧就係劉雪艷，亦都係加州大學三藩市分校亞裔健康研究院嘅主任，歡迎大家嚟參加。咁有啲人咧就問，點解你會請警察嚟參加呢啲會議嘅？咁我就可以話俾你哋聽，因為警察咧其實同醫院嘅工作咧係好有相連嘅，因為警察嘅工作就係維持治安啊嘛，除暴安良係等到啲人唔會受傷害啊咁樣。如果佢哋做工作做得好嘅咧，咁咪少啲人會受傷，少啲人嚟醫院咯。如果個社會嗰度發生大事有暴亂嘅話，咁樣警察要控制呢啲暴亂，係等少啲人受到傷害，咁我哋醫院咧亦都會少啲呢啲病人嘅。所以警察同醫院嘅工作咧係息息相關嘅。And you might think that what does healthcare has to do with the police department? Well, I tell you, hospitals have a lot to do with the police department, because if the police department do their job well in keeping the community safe, then we will have less patients. So our work are very closely related in terms of workload. So we are honored to have the leaders from the police department here with us today. And we have a total of 5 of them: Assistant Chief Mike Redmond, 2 commanders, Commander Daryl Fong and Commander Peter Walsh, Captain Paul Yap, and Sergeant Tina To. Welcome and thank you for coming. 咁今日咧，我哋係好高興請到係喺警察局嘅5位警員嚟到同我哋傾偈嘅。咁佢就係警察局嘅副局長啦，加埋有2位指揮官，同埋一個隊長，同埋一個沙展嘅。咁咧，我哋喺社區嗰度咧，亦都係請咗2位領袖嘅。一個咧就係趙校長啦，佢咧就係以前劉桂明小學嘅校長，而家退咗休。咁但係佢而家咧係我哋有一個叫做 API Forum， 係同警察部局做聯繫，做呢個社區聯繫嘅。佢咧就係嗰度嘅共同主席之一。佢亦都係喺博愛文化服務中心裏邊做呢個主席嘅。咁另外一位咧就係商人 Mr. S 蕭先生。咁蕭先生咧就係喺舊金山商會聯會裏邊做主席嘅。咁多謝2位嚟參加。So we have 2 community leaders also coming. One is Dr. Dennis Chu and the other one is Mr. S. Chu. And Mr. Chu used to be a school principal, but he's retired now. But he's also co-chair of the API Forum of the San Francisco Police Department, as well as a board chair of the Charity Cultural Services Center. And Mr. S.U. is the chair of the Chinatown Merchants United Association in San Francisco. So welcome to all of you.
Thank you, Diana. Welcome, everyone. I wanted to just make sure that we set the tone of this roundtable, and that tone is that it is true, more police on the street, more visibility would be helpful. But we are also going to be discussing, looking at ways, how can we as community members also help ourselves? How can we work together with the police department? How can the police department work together with us to try to take proactive measures for the safety of our community?
多謝你哋大家今晚嚟。Dr. Chu 話我哋依家發生咁多事關於亞裔人俾人打劫打又成，要唔係單止淨係差人要做但係要即係個 community 一齊同差館一齊
團結去合作，
一齊團結係
保持呢個治安
係，因為唔係淨係話淨係差人做，如果即係全部一齊一個 community together 可以做咧，咁會幫助大家個治安。
聽我 say one more thing too， 嗱，大家聽住清楚啊！再加上咧，我哋咧就覺得，我哋而家咧唔係話要靠晒三藩市警察局，有三藩市警察局咧，我覺得係盡晒佢嘅能力。而家社會上我哋社會工作人咧，咁我哋點可以又幫我哋自己人咧？咁我哋可唔可以同三藩市警察局大家合作咧，為大家嘅安全？所以今晚咧，我哋就睇三藩市警察局咧，就有咩提議俾我哋睇，我哋自己喺度幫下自己。咁我哋又可以問三藩市警察局，咁佢哋咧覺得我哋有咩可以做？咁大家可以合作啦，係咪？而家唔係話邊個啱邊個錯，不過最緊要咧就係我哋點互相幫助啫。
So maybe we'll start with Assistant Chief Redmond to introduce yourself a little bit. Talk about what you do, your job.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Dennis. First of all, I just want everyone to know our hearts and prayers go out with all the victims, not only here in San Francisco, but throughout the country that have been victims of some of the recent tragedies that we've all seen. So it is on our minds at all the times of everyone on this call and how we deal with things. And we really take things very seriously. When a crime is committed, that we investigate it to the fullest extent and at least try and bring closure with some type of arrest to the family. But obviously we'll talk about our efforts on the prevention side later. So I'm Assistant Chief Mike Redmond. I'm actually the chief of our Operations Bureau. There's 2 assistant chiefs in the department. I have under me the station, district stations, which is 10 district stations, our Investigations Bureau, which includes our Special Investigations Division, which investigates hate crimes. Our Special Operations Bureau, which is our SWAT team, our Operations Center, Homeland Security, our Hondas and solo motorcycles that you see. And then the Airport Bureau. And then under the Field Operations Bureau, we have our Community Engagement Division, which Commander Fong leads, which we've made some changes there. So this is my 27th year in the police department. Very happy to be with everybody, and thank you for the invitation. Look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Chief Redmond. Commander Fong, could you say a few things about your roles and responsibilities, please?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Chu. Thank you, Diana, also for inviting us to this discussion today. So I'm Daryl Fong. I'm the commander of the department's Community Engagement Division. My division is responsible for promoting community policing throughout the department. We also have oversight over our Community Liaison Unit, which is a group of officers who serve as liaisons to a number of our diverse communities, including the AAPI community. As Chief Redmond alluded to, we've really been, we share the community's concerns with the violence and the incidents and the different attacks, particularly against our elders within the AAPI community that have recently occurred. And really my role within our division is to work with the community on education solutions, preventive measures, as well as providing support to the victims and families who have been victimized in these particular incidents as well. So, very happy to be part of this discussion. Very excited about the mayor's announcement today, particularly surrounding the partnership with SVIP and some of our community providers and partners with CYC and Self-Help with the Elderly. And, it's our goal to work with the community to provide and enhance safety within the community. So thank you for having me.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, Assistant Chief Redmond 喺三藩市差館做咗27年，佢係 Assistant Chief， 咁佢個responsibility 係我哋10個唔同嘅差館，同埋investigations， 仲加埋community engagement。Chief Redmond 佢話先頭佢好傷心，依家發生咁多嗰啲 hate crime， 關於亞裔人同埋佢個心諗住大家啲家人，呢啲 victim 嗰啲家人。
我係鄺有信，我係三藩市警察指揮官，做咗有6年啦，喺三藩市警察。而家我嗰個 responsibility 係睇住嗰個 community engagement division，不過
同社區聯繫啦嚇。
係啊。不過我請Diana Dr. Chu 幫我解釋我嗰啲 responsibilities 係乜嘢？
你有教育佢哋，同埋你同社區聯繫中間有咩工作啊？
嗰啲
community engagement， 你係同而家有3個社區嘅機構係一同合作係咪 ？SDIP 係代表邊個啊
？SVIP 係嗰個Street Violence Prevention Program Intervention Program。Street
Violence
係Street Violence Intervention Program。跟住我哋 partner 同埋CYC Sarah Executive Director Sarah Wan 嗰個 community provider， 我哋係同三藩市警察 work together for prevention and education efforts for community safety.
CYC 係代表咩啊？
嗰個 community youth center 喺個 Bayview 係啊。
青年嘅訓育中心 ，OK， 咁然後就安老自助處啦 ，self-help for the elderly。係啦。咁你就係去同呢啲3個社區嘅機構一齊去睇下點樣去防止罪案，同埋教育下社區。係啦，即係教育我哋啦。多謝。係啊，多謝你。So we have also Commander Peter Walsh.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be involved in this event. I work in the Field Operations Division, which is basically patrol. My regular job is the Golden Gate Division, which is the 5 kind of outlying stations that I oversee, which are Bayview, Ingleside, Terraville, Richmond, and Park Station. However, over the last 6 months, I've kind of taken over the other 5 temporarily to help out with some projects going on for another commander. So I've been intimately involved with Central and Northern, where Captain Yep is. So I basically help the captains dedicate their resources to issues just like this, that we make sure that we use Daryl with his community engagement to reach out to the community, to make our presence known in corridors, and to coordinate resources, not just for one station, which could be limited, but throughout, the entire divisions. So when we do see issues like this, if we need to move people to make people feel safer and to have higher visibility, to show up to events such as this, and to make sure the community knows that we really want to be there for prevention. We want to help these events not happen, but as they have unfortunately happened, that we dedicate those resources to helping solve those crimes and making the community safer.
Commander Walsh 係三藩市做咗24年，佢係 FOB， 咁佢個係做patrol 係 Golden Gate Division。Golden Gate Division 咧就係有 Bayview Station， 有 Ingleside Station， 有 Terraville Station， 同埋 Richmond Station， 同埋 Park Station。但係佢依家唔係淨係單止take care 嗰5個 station， 仲有幫Central Station 同埋另外啲 station。佢啲 captain 嗰度如果要乜嘢resources 佢就會搬如果要差人去呢啲 community event， 佢會攞另外啲 station 嗰啲差人去呢度嗰啲 event 幫手 ，and then 佢唔單止 assist 嗰啲 captain， 佢幫啲 captain 做 prevention， so 可以如果 prevention 就關於 community safety。
即係佢係防止，希望係可以幫到我哋啲市民，可以防止啲罪案嘅發生，同埋增加我哋嘅安全啦。如果有需要嘅時候，佢就將嗰啲資源去調動，等到如果邊個方面需要多啲資源，佢係Commander Walsh 咧就係有權去調動呢啲資源，去等我哋得到需要嘅資源。所以我哋有需要嘅時候，一定要俾我哋嗰啲 captain 知道，等佢哋咧就可以話俾Commander Walsh 聽，等佢可以調動多啲資源俾我哋社區。
Thanks to you and Dennis for putting this together. So 大家好，我識聽唐話，唔係幾識講唐話，所以今晚我會講英文。I am currently the captain of Northern Police Station, formerly the captain of Central Police Station. Violence against the API community agents is not a new topic for us. It's been happening for years, but what's happening now is unprecedented. So even when I was working at Central Police Station, I remember talking to Ed Sue and Eva Lee, and there was already some violence going on there. But I worked really closely with Chief Redmond, who helped us increase foot patrols at that time, which still exist today and are still moving forward.
OK， 大家呢個係Captain Yep 係Northern Station 個 captain。Northern Station 之前佢係個喺 Central Station 個 captain。咁佢喺嗰度嗰陣，佢做 captain 嗰陣，呢啲發生呢啲事唔係新嘅，對住啲華人，佢哋本來其實都發生好耐嘅，但係呢排咧就多咗好多。 咁佢喺做喺 Central Station 做 captain 嗰陣，佢哋好多呢啲attack on Asian， 咁咧佢就increase 啲 foot patrol 喺唐人埠，咁佢Central Station 你嗰陣都做咗2年前係咪啊？依家2年後都仲有多咗個 foot patrol 喺唐人埠度。
And I just want to say that the chief and this group, we're glad to be here, and we'll work even harder to see what we can do to make the community feel safe. So thank you very much for having us.
No, thank you for coming. Dr. Chu, you have some questions for the officers.
The first question that I want to ask is, in light of all these anti-Asian, these hate crimes, these assaults, so far, what has SFPD done in response to these hate crimes?
Thanks, Dennis. So as far as when the crime occurs, one of the things, obviously, as I stated before, is we take every crime seriously, no matter if it rises to the level where we are presenting a hate crime case or if it's a robbery or a burglary, that it is investigated to the fullest extent. We also look for patterns where we have communication with everyone on this call if we think this is related to any other crime. So there's a lot of coordination within the department once a crime occurs.
三藩市差館依家做過啲乜嘢關於呢啲 hate crime？咁 Chief Redden 話我哋三藩市差館個hate crime 都係好嚴重，對我哋係好嚴重嘅。咁我哋個incident 咧，我哋都會
佢哋會查得一清二楚。係
唔係單止咁，佢呢啲發生呢啲事咧，咁我哋會 track 睇下，如果係有乜嘢即係點講係一樣，咁睇下有冇啲乜嘢係 pattern 可以揾到邊個係做呢啲事。
Okay.
Some of the things I'll highlight, and then I'll pivot to the captain and the commanders on the call, is we look at a quick, rapid redeployment plan in the city when things happen, especially if multiple crimes are occurring, and these are for crimes in progress. We have increased our involvement of our community liaison unit, which sits under Commander Fong, to look at victim support. So there are other agencies in the city that provide support, like the district attorney's office or Department of Public Health, but we've taken that to a new level, I believe, in victim support. And we always look at different avenues to support the district station captains with patrol. And currently myself, Captain Yep, and Commander Fong are working with Sergeant Henry Lamb of the APOA to look at redeploying officers throughout different areas of San Francisco where we're experiencing problems. So I'll let Commander Walsh talk about some of the things that we do on our redeployment, and then I'll pivot to Commander Fong to talk about the CLU program.
頭先Deputy Chief Remembrance 咧，佢講咧一個好重要嘅點，就係而家最近咧，我哋啲受害者咧，咁三藩市警察局咧就一定咧要幫佢哋咧，就揾啲社會工作人咧做支持佢哋，安慰佢哋。如果係需要咩幫忙咧，警察局咧一定會支持，一定會幫佢哋。咁佢咧就話所以而家咧，如果係有咩特別嘅區又發生多啲呢啲咁嘅受害者啲人打啲亞裔人咧，佢咧就會派多啲警察咧去嗰啲某一個地方。
From a patrol's perspective on resources, so everybody loves their station. If you're in Northern, you love having Captain Yep. If you're in Central, Captain Ing, etc. But one of the problems with when we look at events like this, if you notice, even from what you've probably all seen or read within the city of San Francisco, they're not confined to a single area. So what we do is we try to get all 10 of the captains, along with our investigations bureau, to kind of find the areas that we really need to move people to. Some stations may need a little bit extra help. There was very much concentration on areas that the API community congregates, or there's a place where they gather. So we weren't just looking at, Chinatown or other areas. We were looking at San Bruno Avenue. We're looking at Leland. We're looking at Clement Street. So those resources come from the district stations to help each other out. All 10 district station captains in the last week to 10 days have submitted, and it comes through us and it goes up to AC Redmond and also to our investigations bureau. We can't forget about them because if an event does happen, they obviously need the information. But what are they doing? Well, how are they redeploying? And then that also helps us, again, figure out what resources we need to move. So it's kind of, instead of thinking of your district captain who we all want to support, it's really a citywide effort. And I'll hand it off to Daryl because I will just say in the last few acts, CED has been immense, especially with their community liaison unit and helping to talk to victims, but also helping the community know that we're doing what we can and we are trying to engage as much as possible, not just as police officers, but as fellow community members to get everybody moving forward and pivoting off this in order to stop it as quickly as possible.
So thanks, Pete. So again, the Community Engagement Division oversees the Community Liaison Unit, and the Community Liaison Unit was established back in October of 2020 when we were seeing increase in reports of incidents, prejudice-based type incidents involving the AAPI community. So one of the things that we quickly identified was a gap in terms of reporting, in addition to a gap in resources that were available to the community to report these incidents. What we saw was a lot of underreporting, where there were a number of reported prejudice-based type incidents that were occurring in the community that were being reported, but not to the police department. So with the establishment of the Community Liaison Unit, one of the first things we did was we worked with a couple of community organizations to establish an anonymous tip line for monolingual speakers, specifically for the Cantonese and Mandarin speaking community. That was put into place at the end of last year. And one of the things that we prioritize is trying to work with our community partners and the district stations in terms of the outreach to the community. So the Community Liaison Unit over the course of the last month and a half have been going out on and conducting safety walks throughout various districts, including the Central District in Chinatown, the Terraville District involving the Sunset of Irving, Terraville and Ocean Avenue, both the Ingleside District along the Visitation Valley corridor, the Bayview District focusing particularly on the San Bruno corridor, and in the Tenderloin District, focusing on like the Larkin Street, Tenderloin corridors that are heavily populated by our Southeast Asian population. We've been asking residents and businesses to share information about the resources that are available, and that not only includes this anonymous tip line as a way of reporting, so there is no barrier to access for reporting, but also to highlight some of our resources that we have available that are coordinated through the Community Liaison Unit in terms of like victim services, crisis response, as well as language access that we help facilitate with our city agency partners and community partners as well. So I know Commander Walsh alluded to our response recently to some of the highly publicized incidents that occurred most recently, like at 7th and Market Street, what occurred in the Polk Gulch corridor, our unit have been responding and making direct contact with the victims in those cases or incidents to see what support we can provide, both in terms of whether it's financial trauma support or language support, and really assist them with the oversight of the investigative process as well as it goes through the criminal justice system. So that's some of the things that we've been providing as support to the AAPI community recently in response to some of these incidents.
Commander Walsh 咧就係話，即係佢咧雖然有10個警察，即係佢係而家係有10個嘅地區係歸佢，即係其實差唔多成個三藩市都係歸佢管轄啦。咁佢咧就係專注係嗰啲即係巡警啊，派巡警去邊度啊，咁嗰啲巡警咧就係要睇下邊個地方咧係有多啲需要咧。咁佢哋咧係會就住個需要嚟到調動啲巡警嘅，咁咧就如果係多華人啲嘅地方嘅街道啊，譬如 San Bruno 街啊、Clement 街啊咁Telegraph 嗰啲街嗰啲多啲唐人嘅咧，咁佢哋可能派多啲巡警去咯。咁咧就主要嚟講咧就係佢哋亦都係要睇下點樣最好係幫到嗰啲受害者嘅，咁可能係錢財上面啦，或者係喺其他嘅心理方面，或者係同佢哋講嘢，咁係睇下即係用咩方法去盡量可以幫到佢哋咯。即係除咗係去緝犯之外啊，亦都係對嗰啲受害者咧係希望有個照顧嘅。咁咧Commander Fong 咧鄺隊長咧就係話佢咧就係佢就係嗰條有一條隱名嘅熱線啊。即係熱線電話啊，係希望啲人咧係打多啲電話嚟到報案嘅，因為而家咧我哋知道咧有好多人咧受嘅傷害咧唔係話真係受傷入醫院啦，咁有時即係啲人講嘢啊係會侵犯到佢嘅心理嘅狀況啦、心理健康啦，咁所以咧呢啲人咧未必係構成罪案嘅，但係咧亦都係一個犯罪嘅行為咯。咁佢咧就希望咧呢啲人咧就會打去呢個咁嘅熱線電話，因為而家咧有另外一個Stop AAPI Hate 嘅 hotline 咧都有得人去即係報告呢啲咁嘅情況嘅，但係佢就希望係啲人係直接嚟打呢個隱名嘅熱線咧，咁等到啲警隊咧就知道多啲呢啲咁嘅情形嘅。咁而家我哋發覺咧就個社區咧都仲係好多人咧係有時咧都冇打電話去警局嘅。咁我哋係即係方隊長咧係希望各位咧如果係有事嘅時候咧就直接打電話去警局落案。咁佢哋亦都去周圍咁樣去巡邏，係確保嗰啲安全啦，亦都係喺語言啦或者係喺錢財上面咧，如果係有需要嘅時候咧，佢警察局，我唔知你喺邊度揾咁多錢嚇，但係警察局咧就係話要盡量會即係幫助嗰啲受害者。仲有咩要補充啊？我都係好。
咁差唔多咯，大家差唔多。Okay, I think out of respect for time, I'm gonna move to the next few questions. Okay, so Chief Redmond, everyone has reported what they have already done. Do you have any plans in the future to make any changes or resources in the future to add to already what's being done?
Thanks, Dennis. So I'll just note a couple things is obviously with the mayor's announcement today with the community ambassadors, that'll be a change that myself and Chief Scott have been in initial conversations of how that will roll out and the police department's involvement with that. Some of the other things that we are looking at is redeployment of officers that are in non-patrol functions to support district stations for more visibility on the street. That would be at a lot of our district stations. We've done that before in certain times of the year, in summertime, during the holidays and things like that. So that is a plan we already have in the department, but it's something that we are currently have done, but looking at a bigger model there. The other thing is through Commander Fong's office is really the education piece, increasing areas for people to report, and translation services in those reporting, if someone is reporting that those are accessible to them. So those are just a few things on the forefront.
Dr. Chu 問三藩市差館會有咩改變？Assistant Chief Redmond 話我哋唔單止有一個新 program 叫 Ambassador Program，我哋依家 Ambassador Program 好似有10個人係咪啊 ？Commander Fong 好似10個人，會喺redeploy 去呢啲地方幫助 ，and then 唔單止有嗰個 Ambassador Program， 我哋also 會揾啲差人，如果依家唔係喺個 district station 或者係做 office 工，會 also 嗌佢哋出嚟去 redeploy 去做 patrol。
咁多啲警察喺街嗰度俾人見到。
係啊。
咁問下呢個 ambassador program 係淨係喺一個地區有啊，抑或係得10個人咁去邊咧？呢十個人嘅 ambassador program 咁少。
Chief Redmond, the question came up was that Diana was asking, she understand that there might be 10 community ambassadors. Are they assigned only to one area, or are we going to get more ambassadors, or how does that look like?
I think there may be some confusion. If I could just help clarify a little bit. The police ambassador program, which is our ambassadors are deployed within the Union Square corridor areas. I believe what Chief Redmond is alluding to is the mayor's announcement today of a community ambassador program, which will be comprise more of community members through CYC as well as the street violence intervention program. That program will be separate from the police ambassador program.
即係你講嗰個 ambassador program 咧，嗰10個人咧，而家主要咧就喺 Union Square， 即係喺嗰啲downtown 嗰度，即係嗰個 shopping 嘅 area 啦，係咪？即係好多鋪頭嗰度。咁咧就但係今日個 mayor 講嗰度咧，就係話會揾多啲人去做一啲市民嘅一齊走埋嘅 program， 就係要嚟巡街嘅，去一啲多罪案或者多唐人嘅地方、出沒嘅地方咧，就係喺嗰度巡街就。咁佢哋係咪會着警察嗰啲制服㗎？如果唔係，點知道係警察 ？So this new team that you will be forming, would they be wearing uniforms?
So I was at the mayor's, and because it's 3 separate groups right now with the groups where self-help for the elderly, SVIP, and CYC, they tend to wear different clothing colors. So the mayor does want to launch this now, but you will eventually see them in more of, and I don't want to say uniform, but clothing that regardless of which group they're in, because they want to work together to make this kind of a cross-community effort, that they will have similar clothing on, not necessarily a uniform, but maybe their jacket or, a vest on that will identify them, even though they're from, in this case, 3 separate groups.
咁呢個係咪叫 ambassador program 啊？ You still call it ambassador program? You are going to give it a different name.
Pete, if you could clarify, I believe this is a community ambassador program, not under the umbrella of the police department, right?
So it's a different type of ambassador program, or you call it Citizens Watch Group or something like that.
And I could be mistaken using the word ambassador. I think the theory or that they are ambassadors, but it's based on that model. I don't know if they've come up with a finalized name. It was more of an introduction of, again, here's SVIP, CYC, and self-help for the elderly coming together so that, you wouldn't see a group you might not normally see in your neighborhood, so that they all could be able to introduce each other, meet merchants, and meet people everywhere from Portsmouth, like we said, to San Bruno and Leland. So the 3 groups work together.
And then these groups will be educated by the police department and getting proper training.
Yes, they will work with us, But again, this is a lot of community outreach. And one of the things is all three of these groups have connections to the community that the police department doesn't necessarily have. They will definitely be looking at what can we express to the community as from a law enforcement perspective. But I want to be really clear, the big push from the mayor and the reason was, and if you saw the interview, we were in the back, the police were in the back, that this is a community at the forefront, and that we are there to back you and help you. But this is going to be the community taking on these issues, and it's going to be building trust between the different communities that are working together, but also that the city is one. So we're there, but we're there as support.
呢個其實就係社區嗰度都以前都有做過㗎啦，就係有一啲組咧，但係佢而家咧就係主要咧就係揾3個機構嘅人，一個咧就係呢個 Street Violence Program， 呢個即係街道嘅防暴嘅 program 啦。咁而一個咧就係youth 嘅 ，OK 就係俾青年嘅 program， 一個咧就係安老自助處嘅 program。呢3個 program 咧就揾啲人出嚟咧，就係form 咗一啲人咧，另外一隊嘅人咧就嚟巡街嘅。咁主要嚟講咧，呢啲人咧即係當然係要着一啲我哋辨認到佢係即係同警察係幫助去令到啲街全安全啲嘅輔助啦，係咪？咁咧就警察嘅部門咧都喺後邊嗰度咧係會幫佢哋嘅。咁佢哋即係佢哋唔係話自己出嚟自己搞嘅，佢哋係同埋警察係有一個好緊密嘅聯絡，係大家一齊做嘢嘅。咁呢個都相當即係應該係好嘅。咁就係睇下有揾到幾多人啦。So we'll see how many people end up in the team and how you can spread the people out to do the patrol. And that would be another challenge, I suppose.
I want to follow up on a third question that I had, but I want to combine it. Chief, if you can just give us approximately how much money did the police department get defunded, and can you speak to how that defunding affected the department?
Yeah, Dennis, so the total amount, we're still in conversations in regards to budget. Obviously, we have lost some money through the defunding effort. We have been involved in a lot of conversations around re-envisioning police. We are very much in support of a lot of the conversation around the officers not being responsible for a lot of some of the social issues that we see around quality of life, issues that are in the city. And the city has started a couple programs, the Street Crisis Response Team, which takes some lower level calls off of our plate. One of the concerns we have is to not have things in place. Obviously, we are a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour operation here. Many other departments aren't like that, so there has to be some capacity buildup before we transfer some of these responsibilities. That is one of the issues we're dealing with right now, is the officers are still handling a lot of the calls because of a capacity issue.
Dr. Chu 正話就係問話如果係即係警察嘅部門係有一啲原本係俾佢嘅用日常即係平時運作嘅資金咧資源咧係減少咗嘅話咧，咁會唔會影響咗佢哋對個社區嘅工作咯？咁個答案咧就係如果係有一啲資源咧係可以分俾其他嘅部門去做嘅咧，佢哋係會啦，就譬如好似社會社工有啲社工咁可以接手做一啲其中嘅嘢，係可以減輕嗰啲警察嘅負擔。但係實實在在咧，佢哋警察部門咧就係一個禮拜7日24小時咁工作㗎嘛。咁你社工就係朝9晚5，星期1至星期5。咁就算你係將啲工作叫啲社工去幫手嘅，咁但係都實在冚唔到呢個即係一個禮拜7日24小時呢啲咁嘅工作。所以佢哋而家咧其實咧都係唔夠人手，警察部門咧都係好多嘢都要自己跟進翻嘅，係咪咁啊？即係仲有冇啲補充或者講錯 ？We also have a community leader here, and that's Mr. Ed Seal. Mr. Ed Seal?
Yes, I'm here.
Ed, yes, Ed is the chair of a Chinatown Merchants United Association, right?
Yep, right. 我哋係華埠舊金山華埠商戶聯會。
係啦，咁阿 Ed 你有啲問題係想喺呢個機會喺咁多警長喺我哋面前嘅時候係有機會想問佢哋嘅係咪？
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me in here. Okay, and first of all, is I appreciate.
你話下俾我哋聽，你嘅生意喺邊度啊
Okay, I'm right on the Stockton Street. 我嘅生意喺呢一個 Stockton 街嘅，我係做旅行社嘅，係啦，見聞旅遊 ，OK， classic tour right on the Chinatown. Okay, and I've been in Chinatown for more than 35 years. Okay, the business. And, I appreciate that. If the one thing is true, I want to say appreciate that to the Captain Yip. Captain Yip. Okay, and he have to put up a more patrol in the Chinatown. That's the truth. Okay, and I appreciate that. 咁阿葉警官咧係真係喺堂課裏邊咧係增加咗警力嘅，咁幫助咗我哋唐人咧係即係增加咗華人嘅警察啦，咁我哋容易去溝通，呢個係事實，亦都係好感謝。咁今日我喺呢度其實有幾個問題咧，想希望咧同呢一個警察局咧係想問呢個問題。Since we have a lot of hate crime, the case right now, especially in the downtown, we can see a lot of homeless is having, like doing the hit of the elderly. Okay, what and how the police department or the city can do something about the homeless? Okay, make sure they like how to get in charge. I mean, how to get charged them or how to then put them like put back, because most of them they have a mentally problem. What the police department can do？ 因為咧就而家好多嘅我哋見到啲老人家被人欺負啊，或者俾人打啊嘅時候咧，好多係因為嗰啲叫做咩流浪者或者係啲無家可歸者咧，佢哋可能出於呢一個精神上嘅問題。咁我想問一問警察局，你哋有乜嘢方法可以真係可以控制到佢哋，或者係可以擺上去法庭去處理咗佢哋咧？呢個係最重要嘅問題。
Thanks, Ed. I'll comment first, and then I'll have Commander Fong weigh in, and Captain Yep. He's had a couple instances recently in his district where we've had some Asian victims, and the person was mental health or homeless related. So, one of the things that we look at is if there is a crime that occurs and we respond and we take that person into custody, we're responsible for putting together the best investigation and working with the district attorney. The courts will decide mental capacity of somebody, especially in violent crime type of situations. So really taking out of it is the crime that occurred and us doing the best investigation and supporting the victim around incidents like that. I'll let Commander Fong comment on some of the work we do around homeless. And, this is a real discussion with the police department of whether we should be involved in responding to these calls or not in the future. Obviously, if a crime happens, yes, but if it's a social issue of somebody that hasn't committed a crime, that we're not involved in that. Daryl?
Yep, thanks, Chief. So as many of you are aware, the police department participates in the Healthy Streets Operations Center Collaborative, which is a citywide collaborative involving multiple city agencies, including the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing, Department of Public Health, the Department of Public Works, as well as the police department. So our role in addressing a lot of these issues surrounding the unsheltered population is take-led approach, in which we often allow the other city agencies to take the lead in terms of engaging the individual to offer services, whether that be shelter, mental health, or other resources that may help that person get off the street and into a better path. So as I mentioned, a lot of the activity, Ed, that you're alluding to, particularly around surrounding larger encampments, that is a collaborative approach that we take to resolve those issues in terms of trying to help those individuals. When you have some encampment or unsheltered people that are engaged in other activity on the street, we also look, the officers will take an approach where, to see if enforcement is necessary to address that issue, if it's related to crime or other issues. But again, oftentimes they'll do an assessment, and if appropriate, try to connect them with the appropriate resources through other city partners. So that's kind of the approach, particularly under the HSOC collaborative, in which I also oversee under the Community Engagement Division. We currently have about a contingent of officers that are assigned to this that support larger operations of addressing the large encampments that we've seen, particularly during COVID, during the pandemic, that we've been able to resolve through this particular strategic approach.
May I ask a follow-up question on that? Is there empirical evidence or is there any direct correlations between the homeless people committing the hate crimes, or are they just committing the crimes opportunity because they need the money, or what?
I don't know if we've done an analysis through our crime strategies unit to actually see if there's a correlation between hate crimes per se and the unsheltered population. I will say, based on our tracking under the community liaison unit, that the incidents that have targeted the AAPI community recently, there hasn't been a pattern of a large contingent of unsheltered individuals who were involved in that type of behavior. So I think Chief Redmond alluded to, there recently was an incident, and Captain Yip, I'm sure could speak to it, because it happened, I believe, in that district, where there was an unsheltered individual involved with some behavioral health issues maybe at play, but we haven't seen a pattern of that based on our tracking.
One of the things that we really do on the investigative side is when there is a crime and we make an arrest, the investigators are all trained to elicit questions and try and determine motive, right? Either from a witness to the crime or the suspect if they waive their Miranda rights. So it could be something where there is an incident, and one happened in Captain Yep's district, and he can speak to, but the investigators go down that line of whether this meets the element of a hate crime or it does not. Paul?
Thanks, Chief. So what happened on Monday morning, and this is a good example of how the police department's working to support the community, is that a suspect at Polk, in the area of Polk in Washington, attacked 5 Asian victims. The reason I bring this up is because I want to let you know how seriously we're taking these crimes. So first of all, I was notified immediately as soon as the officers were able to contain the scene. Second, Commander Walsh was notified, and I know the Chief Redmond was also notified. The victims insisted that this was a hate crime and that we need to look into it. And we absolutely agreed with that. So even though that suspect didn't say, something over like derogatory towards the Asian victims, what the victims told us was that they attacked Asian persons at the exclusion of other people that were in the area. So we had our special investigations team come out to re-interview the victims. He was charged with assault with a deadly weapon and the hate crimes. So this person was also potentially a person that may or may not have some kind of mental issues, but as the chief said, we'll determine that later. But a crime occurred. We took it seriously. We will always take it seriously. An arrest was made. I know that Commander Fong was notified, so his team could reach out to see if the victims needed additional assistance. So I think this is an example of how seriously we're taking each crime, how everyone on this call is involved somehow, and where we can take action, we're taking action.
Mr. Ed Sue, did you have some other questions?
即係幾個警長一齊咁樣講不同嘅嘢啦。咁但係而家因為Ed 咧係喺我哋嘅社區嘅一個商家，亦都係一個商家聯會嘅主席。咁我哋想問下佢，就係而家警察俾你嘅答案，你滿唔滿意咧？因為話你覺得係有啲嘢係應該做得更好咧？即係警察嚟講咧，佢哋覺得佢哋已經係好盡力去做啦，佢哋係會盡量去喺呢個咁嘅情形，正話Captain Yap 講嘅情形咧，就係有個人喺個街嗰度去打咗5個人， 咁佢咧就一個人上去，佢又應付一個，另外一個人上去，佢又應付一個，佢又揾啲人打，但係打贏嘅人咧個個都係亞裔嚟嘅，而嗰個地方咧就有其他嘅人咧就唔係亞裔嚟嘅。佢呢個人咧就其實係冇講一啲即係好話叫你翻去你翻屋企啊，或者諸如此類嗰啲咁嘅嘢咧，係即係有表示有種族仇恨啦。但係佢話就算係咁嘅情形之下咧，佢哋咧都盡量去首先去盡量去 charge 佢係有呢個即係俾一個罪名，佢係有個種族仇恨喺度，因為佢係專注咁樣去襲擊亞裔，佢冇襲擊其他喺旁邊有其他嘅人，佢冇襲擊，但係佢係專去襲擊亞裔。咁呢個係可能係同種族仇恨有關。咁但係到最後嘅結果查出嚟嘅結果會係點咧？呢個係唔知嘅。但係呢個係佢警察咧已經盡力去做。如果係可以去俾一個罪名係有種族仇恨嘅咧，佢哋會盡量會做。係咪咁講啊 ，Dr. Yap Captain Yap？
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you, Diane.
首先咧就係我多謝先，我多謝咁多位警官咧嘅回覆。呢個咧好老實講句，即係我而家係發覺到咧喺三藩市或者喺美國裏邊咧仇恨咧呢樣嘢咧，種族仇恨咧係好加深。其實就唔係淨止三藩市噶啦。咁但係頭先我哋所講呢一個人咧已經係形成咗一種罪行。咁會唔會市政府？其實我知道警察做咗好多嘢，我亦都好感激。但係市政府裏邊嗰執法嘅部門或者執行嘅部門，即係嗰個控告嗰個部門咧，會唔會做到更多啲嘢咧？會唔會同呢一個警察嘅部門咧係可以真正咧係press charge 呢個人咧，即係落案控訴呢個人咧？呢個我係好成一個大嘅疑問嚟嘅。Just only we worry about is like the hate crime in San Francisco or in the whole nation. The DA department can be doing like the press to charge or not. I believe that is really important too. Okay, and also it's like the homeless right now in the San Francisco is horrible. And I understand the city put a lot of funding on it, but it still is like everywhere. 我知道政府俾咗好多錢落去，俾啲關於呢個無家可歸者，但係仍然呢個問題咁嚴重，我相信亦都係警察局好頭痛一個問題。
One of the things that we've worked on with the DA's district attorney's office is District Attorney Bodine has started his community liaison attorneys that work directly with our station captains to really look at if there is a continuous problem within their district, whether it's a quality of life issue or a crime pattern or something like that. That includes hate crime. So one of the things myself and Commander Fong have worked on is really we could have a subject that maybe be using some hate speech or things like that to make sure that there's a police report done on that if it didn't rise to a level of a crime, because that same person could escalate over the next couple of weeks or couple of days where it turns into something where maybe that incident doesn't rise to where they're going to do a hate crime investigation, but we have communications with the DA that if there is a pattern that they should look at this case as a hate crime. So those are some of the things we're working on our end. The other thing is if we do have a pattern of behavior where we think someone is a threat to the community, we work directly with the assigned district attorney to try and have that person held so they don't get released. So even if the crime would be something where they would be released, we have a serious discussion about the safety of the community if this person is released. Because obviously with COVID, there's people that would be held in a pre-COVID situation than we are now. So we are having discussions around opening the courts and things of that as we come to the next tier.
Hey, Chief, if I could chime in on the homeless issue that Ed raised. Ed, we understand that there's a lot of community concern, particularly around the increase in the unsheltered population under COVID. We saw almost a twofold increase in terms of structures and tents on our streets during COVID. And part of that was as a result of COVID restrictions, where a lot of the shelters were, people had to be, the shelters were unavailable to be utilized. And many people ended up really going back on the street and living on the street. But I am happy to report that over the course of the last probably 4 to 6 months, there has been, with folks being sheltered in place, safe sleeping sites that have been stood up throughout the city. There has been shelter that has been made available, and there has been almost a 50% reduction in the number of structures, including tents on the street. But, the situation has improved, at least based on our tracking and analysis that we've done, particularly in areas, like down in the Tenderloin or in the downtown area, that were really inundated with tents and a lot of just the behavior surrounding the activity that was around these encampments as well that brought concern to the community.
咁方警長正話俾咗啲好啲嘅消息俾我哋聽咧，就係話雖然呢啲無家可歸者咧係帶咗咁多嘅問題出嚟啦，社會嘅問題啦，但係咧佢哋喺呢個疫情之下咧，曾經咧有啲人咧原本住喺一啲散房嗰度嘅咧，就走翻出街嗰度嘅，驚住染呢啲病毒啊！佢哋所以佢哋都好精下嘅，佢哋寧願走出街嗰度自己去整個屏障嚟到自己每個人一個嚟住。咁所以咧個街嗰度咧就好多呢啲咁嘅屏障呢啲咁嘅嘢啦。但係佢話方警長話咧喺最近呢4個至6個月咧，佢大概見到咧呢啲屏障咧好多已經冇咗啦，就大概有成一半咧就係冇咗，係因為即係個市府係做咗啲揾到第二啲地方俾呢啲無家可歸者住嘅。咁呢個都係一個好嘅情況啦。但係即係佢哋個精神問題啊、狀況啊嗰啲始終都係一個問題嚟嘅。咁正話方警長啦，就係話如果係即係佢哋呢啲咁嘅無家可歸者咧，而家咧去管理呢啲人咧，其實咧都係嗰啲社工嗰啲嘅，咁但係佢哋咧就要睇佢哋有咩問題啦，係咪精神問題啊，因為吸毒啊，因為咩問題咧？佢哋咧就要揾啱嘅資源去配合佢哋，去幫佢哋。咁但係如果佢哋真係有其他嘅犯罪嘅行為啊，諸如此類嘅咧，佢哋都係會通知警察去管理呢件事嘅。所以咧，即係其實就係整到一個系統咧，就係。首先出去睇係咩問題，班社工出去睇係咩問題，咁然後咧就分發去係咩問題咧，就揾咩資源去配合佢哋。咁其實呢啲無家可歸者咧，其實唔係一個問題嘅，可能好多個問題嘅，所以要好多資源配合佢哋。咁我哋其實市政府嗰度真係盡量去做，但係呢個其實係非常之艱難嘅問題，唔知有冇好嘅答案。咁阿蕭生，即係我好知道，我好清楚你身處其境嗰個難處嘅，因為呢啲無家者咧，你喺間鋪頭嗰度做嘢，佢哋咧就喺度遊街，係咪？佢可能咧就遊咗入你間鋪頭嗰度揸住把刀嘅，咁呢啲都曾經啲事可能有發生過啦，喺唐人坊係咪啊？咁所以發生喺我身上嚇？發生喺我身上。發生喺你身上啊？佢揸住把刀對住你啊？係啊，流浪者係揸住把刀入我鋪頭，跟住我趕你走㗎啦，把刀。即係有動作，曾經發生，但係你冇傷到，好在係咪？冇。OK， 咁即係如果係有呢啲咁嘅情形，咁警長們，咁你哋有咩方法係叫呢啲商家可以保護到自己嘅咧 ？How can we prevent people getting hurt? The people who run the shops or who work in the shops, how do they help themselves to not get hurt?
For Commander Washkin, if they wanted to weigh in, but we encourage the businesses, obviously, never to put themselves in harm's way. Right, never confronting an individual, particularly if that person is exhibiting some sort of dangerous type of behavior. We recommend obviously to call 911 so that the officers can respond accordingly and take appropriate action, whether that is some sort of enforcement or whether that person is in crisis that needs some sort of evaluation or support. But again, just not having our businesses or our merchants or citizens put themselves at risk, and just utilizing the proper resources to report and request assistance. 方警長咧就係話最緊要咧就係同佢哋如果佢哋係入嚟嘅，你可能佢入嚟你出去，即係你要同佢分一個好清楚嘅距離，即係等到佢唔可以咁容易傷害到你，咁然後跟住咧就盡快打911，等警察可以到嚟咯。你越快打，佢哋可能越快到，係咪？咁咧就呢個咁嘅方法啊，可能喺我哋任何一個人身上咧都係可能適用嘅，唔係話喺鋪頭嘅商戶先至用到嘅。即係我哋如果見到周圍有啲咩可疑嘅人物咧，我哋首先咧，如果佢喺一邊街行，可能就要行過對面街，即係同佢離開啲。OK， 咁然後咧就跟住盡快打911，即係我哋自己人身嘅安全咧都非常之重要。I know as Captain Yick took over, there was a a merchants block program that was put together in the Chinatown area. And I know part of that was really having block captains or the merchants connected with the footbeat officers in that particular corridor. William Ma, many of the merchants have direct contact and familiarity with them. So again, we encourage you and to have obviously that relationship. We encourage obviously our footbeat officers to have that type of engagement and relationships with the merchants in their respective corridors. So you can reach out to them, even if it doesn't rise to the level, let's say, of a 911 call, right? But if it's a problematic individual that perhaps needs evaluation or intervention by an officer, that you reach out accordingly to them for that support.
I'll be honest with you, it's really work that together.
Right.
So we have real good relationship on it, and the footbeat officer, they're really helpful. I appreciate that. That's why I appreciate the Captain Yip at the time to set up on this. It's really workable.
非常之好啊！呢個係商家同埋啲巡警嘅合作，大家認識大家咧。如果係有時啲嘢，譬如有個人走嚟周圍咁吐口水咁佢又唔係話犯咩罪，佢又冇傷害你，但係你又好即係厭惡呢啲咁嘅情形噶嘛，因為係而家係仲係呢個病毒係流行緊噶嘛。咁如果係咁嘅情形咧，你呢啲商店咧就同嗰啲巡警咧有個緊密嘅聯繫咧，佢哋係直接可以打電話去佢哋嘅手機，咁就即係呢個唔係一個911嘅急救嘅情形啦，係咪啊？咁所以咧就啲巡警可以幫到佢哋咯，到嚟呢個係非常之好嘅。There is a concern that came in from one of the attendees, and this is an anonymous attendee. And one of the things that has been a concern to the community is the relationship with the Black community. And here is the comment. More policing means more risk of unjust murders of Black Americans. We must form bridges and relationships with the local Black American community to reduce violence against Asians. Police officers must receive more education to combat internalized racism to avoid tragedies like George Floyd. Chinatown residents will not be safer without a strong relationship with the Black community leaders. So this kind of takes us a different turn. Now it's not just what you do. It's like it takes you to another level, working with the Black community. Now, we never say that all these people who attack the Asian community are the Black community. I mean, they're of different colors, but certainly some groups might be of a higher percentage. But this anonymous attendee is actually asking about the collaborative relationship with the police department with the Black community. Is there any work in that area? I feel that's very important too. 即係呢個係一個人打電寫問題入嚟問，係話呢個我哋同埋黑人嘅種族咧係有好大嘅摩擦，咁咧就係話警察當佢哋去防衛我哋嘅時候，有冇同呢啲黑人社區做聯繫，等啲黑人嘅社區都可以幫埋我哋同人嘅社區一齊去防止呢個罪案。
So a couple things, and I'll open it up to everybody. This person is 100% right. I mean, we work as hard as we can in every community. And I think one of the focuses for our department is to look at the past and get better in the future. One of the things when we looked around hate crimes and we created our community liaison unit to focus on things like that, we wanted to have a variety of officers that are working in that unit that could cross over to all communities. Because I have a big belief as a police officer, no matter what race you are, you have to be able to work with all communities. And we all have to support each other. We could have businesses and retail and neighborhoods that are very diverse in this city. And we have to look out for each other. And the police have to be part of that community. We did an event last week in the Bayview, very similar, talking about violence in that district. And how we police that district when there's violence. We've made a lot of changes in our deployment and what we do that it's very much community-based more than trying to create disparities and doing traffic stops and stopping people on the street and things of that nature. Really thinking about what's the impact of adding police to a community and what it does. what does that do? And we want it to be positive, not negative. So that is very much a focus for our department, and the unit that we have is represents everyone in San Francisco, and I believe any of those officers, no matter what race they are, can work with any of the communities in the city. And we want to get to our whole department being like that. So I'll open it up to anyone else that wants to comment from the police department on that.
Yeah, Chief, if I could add to that, just Diana, if, just for everyone's awareness, when the officers go through their recruit training, they go through cultural competency training in which they are exposed to multiple cultures and multiple communities. We also have them go out in the community in a community immersion to various communities, such as exposure to the AAPI community, the African American community, the Latinx community, or like the LGBTQ community. In fact, we also, our recruits are also exposed to the issues surrounding the unsheltered population as well. And some of those issues that they are exposed to in advance of them actually having to tackle in their responsibilities as they become police officers. In addition to that, what Chief Redmond was mentioning, the Community Engagement Division provides the oversight and the structure for promoting community policing throughout the department. And as part of that, we support community engagement in all communities. So we obviously advocate and support cross-cultural activities or education so that our officers are familiarized with obviously the different cultures within our diverse community. So there is a concerted effort by the department to emphasize that and to ensure that we do have our officers are exposed to that because we are serving such a diverse community here in San Francisco.
咁呢個方警長咧就係話佢嘅責任咧就係同社區做聯繫嘅。咁呢啲黑人嘅社區咧就即係正話嗰條問題咧就係有個黑人即係話我哋有冇同黑人嘅社區大家做聯絡大家做聯繫一齊攜手合作去抵抗呢啲罪案。咁佢話呢個咧亦都係佢哋嘅責任。佢哋嗰啲警察啊初入嚟做訓練嘅時候咧，就個咧都要經過呢個 diversity training， 就係要呢個不同嘅文化、不同嘅族裔，大家要學識即係不同嘅人啊，三藩市呢啲咁多元文化嘅社區咧，係有不同嘅人住喺度。咁啊每個族裔嘅人咧係有佢不同嘅文化嘅。咁呢啲警察咧就要首先學咗呢啲咁嘅嘢，咁然後咧就以後咧亦都係同不同嘅社區咧有做聯絡，大家一齊開會啊，一齊做活動啊咁樣去幫助呢啲社區嘅，因為呢啲社區自己本身都可能有問題嘅，咁所以我哋係好多謝呢個三藩市警察局有一個咁好嘅系統，呢個係系統嘅問題。你有個系統咧，你就會做得好。你如果冇個系統咧，咁你就唔會有呢啲 training。咁嗰啲警察畢咗業出嚟嘅時候咧，就唔會有呢個咁嘅思想，係話大家都係人人平等嘅呢個世界思想。咁係大家係要互相幫助嘅，咁我哋先有個好嘅世界。So thank you so much. This is really great that we have a good San Francisco Police Department with a great system, with a great structure that can support the multiracial community that we live in. Thank you. So we are almost time, and that is really one very important question because so much that we shy away from talking about Asians and Blacks. We shouldn't be afraid to talk about it, and so that there would be an honest dialogue and as to how we can all work together and resolve the issue. Any other comments before we close off on this discussion here?
You know, I completely support the chief and commander. We're 100% behind cross-cultural collaboration. And I just want to mention that Commander Fong and I were on a call with the chief last week where the NAACP was meeting with the Chinese American Democratic Club about this issue. And it was a powerful meeting in that it's so important that they decided to work together to go ahead and they organized a march and then unified against the whole concept of API hate. So it is happening. And we 100% support that, very much as the chief and the commander said. So I just want to emphasize that point. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you so much for all the leaders who came from the San Francisco Police Department to come and educate us. Assistant Chief Mike Redmond, Commander Dale Fong, Commander Peter Walsh, Captain Paul Yap, and Sergeant Tina To. And we also want to thank our community leaders, Dr. Dennis Chu and Mr. Essil, who help us ask the questions and have a dialogue with the police department. Through the dialogue, we really found out how the police department function and that indeed they are doing their very best for us, trying their very best to find out the hate crimes. And with that, we need to help them with collaborations like reporting the crimes to the police department. So thank you all. And we also want to thank our production team, of course. Every single time when we do these town hall meetings, they really couldn't happen without their help. And tonight with us are Clifford Sachs, Raymond Hong, and Joyce Chan. And our media partners, KTSF and the World Journal, help us to advertise these programs. Thank you to all of you. 咁我哋今晚真係學咗好多嘢咯，多謝三藩市警察局嚟嘅所有領袖啦，同埋我哋社區嘅兩位領袖係趙校長同埋邵先生。咁咧，當邵先生同趙校長同啲警察對話嘅時候咧，我哋其中咧就學咗好多嘢。最重要咧就係知道，原來三藩市警察係真係盡佢哋所能為我哋服務嘅。呢個係等到我哋知道咗之後更加安心。咁我哋都盡我哋嘅責啦。如果有罪案嘅時候，記住要去警察局嗰度報警啦嚇。咁我哋亦都要多謝我哋嘅團隊係喺後邊嗰度同我哋錄製呢個視像嘅會議啦。咁同埋有一啲傳媒嘅朋友係幫我哋去將呢個圓桌會議嘅消息係傳播開去啦。咁係多謝各位嘅。
Yeah, with that, so again, I'd like to say a personal thank you to Chief Redmond, to all the commanders, to the captain, to Sergeant To. Sue, it was nice to meet you. I think more of these type of meetings, or at least the ability, the comfort that we can all speak, ask questions, and work together. I think that is always a step in the right direction. If there's any mistrust or whatever, and the community the communities are afraid to speak to the police, or the police don't trust the community, that's where things fall apart. But I think, I for one am very proud of our relationship, with the SFPD API group. Very proud to be a part of this and have a good relationship with the community and with the police department. So I thank everyone for that, and I thank Diana Lau for setting this up.
We do have a website, ahi.ucsf.edu, where you can go and find a lot of the past town halls, as well as some COVID information and some very common questions and answers. If you are not on our email list, please sign up, and you can email us at ahi.ucsf@gmail.com. With that, we will add you to our listserv. You just put add to listserv on the subject line. 咁咧，我哋係有個網站嘅，呢個網站咧就係 ahi.ucsf.edu， 請各位得閒嘅時候上去瀏覽。喺上邊咧就係以前做過嘅視像會議啦，同埋亦都有好多關於呢個新冠病毒啊、新冠肺炎嘅資訊嘅。So thank everyone for coming tonight. Together we can conquer the virus, both the hate virus as well as the coronavirus. At this point of time, the coronavirus is doing better because of the vaccine, but that means that we all have to vaccinate. So if you haven't done so, please go vaccinate. And even if you have vaccinated, please keep wearing your mask and keep the social distance from people when you are among people who haven't vaccinated. We still have quite a few people that haven't vaccinated yet. We have not achieved herd immunity at this time. And please stay safe and just stay alert and be safe. 咁我哋好多謝各位今晚嚟參加我哋嘅圓桌會議嘅。我哋而家仲係繼續要共同努力，一齊去克服呢個仇視嘅犯罪嘅病毒，同埋呢個新冠肺炎嘅病毒，兩種病毒都要去克服嘅。咁如果你哋係未中疫苗嘅咧，未接種疫苗嘅咧，請大家喺盡早嘅時間就去接種啦。 因為而家4月1號開始咧，就會開始50歲以上嘅人就可以接種，然後到4月15咧就可以全民接種噶啦，18歲、16歲以上嘅全民接種。咁喺呢個接種嘅期間咧，就仲有好多人都未打針噶嘛，咁所以咧我哋出街嘅時候咧，仲如果係周圍有啲未接種疫苗嘅人，或者我哋唔知道佢係未接種咗疫苗嘅人咧，我哋仲係要戴口罩，同埋要同佢哋保持一個6尺嘅距離嘅。咁希望大家係而家因為個環境係咁惡劣咧，係你哋要自己保衞自己嘅自身安全咯。咁留意下附近嘅人，出街嘅時候小心啲。多謝各位今晚參加，多謝。
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
All of you.
Dr. Chu, Deanna, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Diana.
Bye.
多謝晒啊！多謝各位警長。Thank you, everyone.
All right, you guys take care. Everyone stay safe.
Stay safe.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Diana. Thank you so much. Thank you for helping with translation.